So he goes, follow me. So I said, okay. So I follow him. He makes a circle. He goes, there's footprints. There's people here. And I was like, dude, that's us. And he goes, okay. It's crazy. So I'm like, oh my God. I didn't really understand that this guy probably had hypothermia. So I pulled him. I said, dude, we're done. We're done with this match. It's over. We're done. I felt like we were like in a boxing match. I'm like, dude, this is it. You got to throw in the towel. You're done, brother. So I pull him and he goes, let's go. And I said, all right. I said, dude, forget about let's see. I go, let's see. Maybe Skylight is broken out and it'll be easier. He goes, okay. So we go down. I said, you lead. So this guy leads. It was like he was drunk. I mean, the craziest way. Like we should have got down in probably like 100 feet. This guy went this full convoluted way. I turned him like 300 feet.
The bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
I tell people all the time, never underestimate the Catskills. You can't underestimate them.
Why the Catskills is such a great place for trout.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskills.
All right, Dave, beautiful weather we're having, huh?
Yep, absolutely. Awesome weather.
Perfect weather for hiking.
Absolutely. Not for winter hiking, though.
Oh, and that's your specialty, isn't it?
It is.
That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, but we talk all the time. You remember that report I sent you on the DEC saving the people or saving that person? Well, not saving it, actually finding the body off of Ozable Chasm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's turned into a murder, a homicide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They went down and searched for evidence on the sides of the sides of Ozable Chasm. They recovered the body, which was 100 feet. It looks like the fire department had a job in it too. It was crazy. 37-year-old. I don't know. They didn't have much more after that. That was also from the Times Union, so I don't know if I can trust that. Do you trust that stuff?
I think it's probably. I mean, that's pretty solid paper. So
yeah,
I would think
that's true.
Yeah, the stories are in depth for things like this. So I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, just weird times. We were just involved with a search and rescue, and that was intense, and that was I got to give a hats off to everybody who attended, the Rangers for organizing it. They did a fantastic job. All the volunteers did absolutely incredible, and everybody was on their A game with this. It was a great experience. It was a horrible experience, but a great experience at the same time. Absolutely. Was that your first rescue? Was that your first?
No.
Oh no, you went with me in Hyde Park. Yeah, we've done several things.
Right. And I've had independent rescues myself.
And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Some of your independent crazy rescues, your winter hiking rescues and stuff like that. And so Dave here is going to be chatting with me tonight. And I'm trying to read his resume. I'm going to see if I can read this all in one shot. Catskill 3500 regular, winter Catskill 3500s, winters Catskill solo, single season winter round, ADK regular 46er, ADK 3 consecutive single season rounds, including 1 round with McNaughton. Over 100 of the 46 high peaks done in the winter solo, 36 of the 46 done in the winter and solo. You failed how do you say that again? Kucharaga 4 times in a row over Tuesday. Yeah. Failed that over 4 times in a row. So you see, there's nothing wrong with bailing. Took 5 attempts to get that. Took 3 times to get Marcy. See, there's nothing wrong with bailing.
Absolutely.
Definitely he's had many failures. Of course, he knows when to bail. And he does lots of hiking all over the U.S. We'll talk about that definitely later. So it's good to have you on the show, David.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. David and I are good friends, and we like to chat a lot, and it's fun talking with you, David. It's going to be a good night. All right. So thank you, monthly supporters: Darren White, John Comiskey, Vicky Ferreira, Jim C, Michael Bogner, Sarah Bacon, David Mead, and Matt Smith. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Also, a big thank you to Outdoor Chronicles Photography for being sponsor of the show. Molly from Outdoor Chronicles specializes in venture elopement and adventure couple photography in the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She is also an officiant for getting married and a licensed guide, so don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, so Joe, David, you know these guys. What can you say about Joe Galvin and Scott Finnerman?
Fantastic people, super knowledgeable, really helpful, instructive, kind of people that, they're just not like doing trainings and then you can't ask them anything. Like I reach out, not to Scott so much, not because I can't, but to Joe, I do quite a bit. Asking him just random questions about knots and ropes and various things. And he's like always right back to me, so gracious with his time. But they're great, great guys. I mean, they do a fantastic job. Like I always think with those guys, I mean, like if you need to be rescued, you literally want those guys. Like,
Yeah, agreed.
I always
Agreed.
think that. I'm like, I hope I don't have to be, but if you like, I have seen both of them do amazing work. And they do amazing work.
Yeah. So they're from the Trail Bomb Project. They're a hiking backpacking school. They have amazing skills. Check them out on all platforms. They have a website, social media. Like I said, like Dave said, nothing but great stuff about Joe and Scott. So if you guys want to learn some new skills or brush up on your old skills, Scott and Joe are definitely the guys to go to. So definitely. Also, if you want new gears in the Catskills, definitely say no more. Camp Catskill in Tannersville has all stuff for your hiking needs, from spikes to snowshoes to moisture wicking shirts. They have everything essentials for your hiking in the Catskills. Check them out online. Also, they have a website. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook as well. Also, if you're ready to hit the trails, make sure you take the scenic route. Our guides are here to help you with your goals, big or small. Check out the scenic route guiding and gear rentals on Instagram and Facebook for more information. Also, if you mention the podcast, you can get 10% off. Use the code Mountain Lion. So, Dave, you have anything to drink right now besides water?
No.
Oh man, you don't drink alcohol at 3:00, right?
No, I do not. I'm a water man.
I am. I'm having something to drink, so it's a good old rum and coke, like always. So, David, you also chatted with me about your previous hike in the Eastern Grand Canyon. Is that what is it called?
No, Pennsylvania Grand Canyon.
Okay, tell me about that.
So that's out in like northwestern Pennsylvania, very remote. I'm working on a project out there, and so I'm trying to remember. I think there's 21 mountains in this group of mountains, and there's like a northern section, central, and southern. So I finished the entire southern section, which was like a little bit of like 13 and a half miles and mid 5,000s with elevation gain. So that's pretty cool. It's like the old Catskills because there is some bushwhacking. Like like literally, I didn't see one person at all.
Wow.
Multiple mountains. So it's pretty interesting like that. PA Grand Canyon. It's not well known. I encourage everybody to check it out. I'd say it's like almost like the old Catskills where you can there's a lot of people aren't there. You can bushwhack. It's not heavily populated, so that's cool.
This looks impressive. Like I'm looking at it on a map. You say this is by like Avis or Saddlesburg or something like that?
No, it's more so Blackwell would be Slate Run, Cedar Run, those types. I haven't heard of those other towns.
Okay, yeah. It's the same area right around there. Wow, that looks impressive, man. The elevation gain and loss with that, it seriously looks like a small Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's interesting because you start, the mountains are early into the 2000s, so people are like, oh, that's nothing. But like you start at like sea level a lot of the times, So, like I said, I think I did. Let me think here. I want to say it was four mountains, and it was five mid like just under 5,500,
Jesus. Now in
which is a lot.
Pennsylvania, let
Yeah.
alone.
So the Catskills, you obviously start higher, and most things are like it'll be like 1,500 elevation gain. So this is similar. It's just not as high.
Yeah.
And down there in the gorge, in the valley, the ice is gone now, so it's not as it doesn't get as snowy as the Catskills, but the ice does linger because they're such like deep gorges.
Yeah. Now, didn't you say previously that you did this and then you had to like kind of like almost not self-rescue, but get yourself out with like rope and stuff?
No, that was in Vermont. So
Okay.
this past season, I did the 46 in the winter. I added on the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, seven of the highest peaks there, and then I wanted to do Vermont, the 4,000 footers. So everything was going great, and then I got to Vermont, and I did Allen and Abraham. So basically, what happened was super clear day. It was going to be really cold. Like it was going to be high winds, 30, 40 mile an hour winds, but it was a clear day. And I was going to do Abraham, then traverse over to Ellen and then back. So I saw when I first started, I saw a guy and he had actually just done something in Maine. I can't remember what it was, like something up by Katahdin, and he had a
Okay.
difficult time. And I said, "Oh, are you doing, Ellen today?" He was like, "Oh, no way, no way." I was kind of surprised, but I'd find out why. So I got up there real quick, got up to the summit of Abraham, and then I started traversing over it. It was like it was literally multiple feet of snow, unbroken, and super high winds, and it was probably -20
Wow.
wind chill. So I said, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I think I could beat the system because it would have been too dangerous. And this is the thing you realize, right? It's not like, oh, can I get to the summit? It's really like, how am I gonna get back? So I'm thinking, this is my thought process. I can make it to the summit, okay, but then now I'm gonna have to re-break the trail because the wind is gonna most likely blow the snow in.
Mhm.
And now with route finding, I haven't been to Vermont. I haven't been on this trail before. I don't know it that well. So there's a lot of variables. So I say, okay, forget this. Let me turn around. I go back down and I'm like, I'm going to drive over to the base of Ellen. And I'm like, it should just be just like Abraham. Zoom up there. I get done early. It's all great. So I'm going up the trail to Ellen. There's a woman that comes and like she has a ton of mountaineering equipment, like rope. Um, she had an ice axe. She had, I want to say, she even had a shovel. She must have just had a system and just was like bringing her system. And I said, "Oh, are you doing Ellen?" And she said, "No, no, no, no. I don't have enough time for that." And I was kind of like, "Oh, that's like weird. Like it's like 1 o'clock." Like should have time. So she like kind of jogged past me and she said she was doing some other mountain. Like
Jogs path.
we get to the junction. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a left. You're going right." So anyway, I'm heading up and then I stop. I get something to eat. And once I get to the junction, the lady's actually coming back down, and I go, "Did you summon her?" She goes, "No, no, it was a slog. It was impossible. Multiple feet of snow. It's not even worth it. I'm just heading home." And I was kind of surprised, but that told me what I was going to be up against. So I made a right. I was on the long trail. I'm heading to the summit, and it was brutal. So it went from completely packed trail to completely unpacked route finding, high winds, even though I was in the trees, very cold. And there's so much snow, like you're literally hitting branches, like almost having to crouch down. And I see like some faint footprints. So there's like somebody, it seems like in front of me. Eventually run into it was a girl and I asked her if she summited. She said, no, no, no. it was, I got to it was like I lost the trail, like we're out of time. Now keep in mind, I dropped from going like 2.2 miles an hour to point 0.4.
Oh wow.
Once I made that right, it was a slog. And then I understood that other woman, she like obviously knew this area very well. So she's like, hey, this is gonna take me forever. Like it's not worth it. So I want to say like I met that girl at like 3:30. So I was going from like I would be home at 3:30. Like these weren't hard times. I'm like, oh, I'm cool with it. So that girl's like turn around, she's like, and she said to me, she goes, she goes, oh, this is where I got to. She showed me her GPS, and she's like, oh, I guess you're feeling ambitious today. And I'm like, I guess so. So I head out, and she said she fell in a spruce trap. So as I went, probably got within 0.6 of a mile or so from the summit, and I hit a spruce trap, like maybe 2 feet, another one. And then I hit one, I fell up to my waist. And then I moved and I sank down on my shoulders with my arms pinned. So it was scary. I mean, it was I was in that hole, and I was starting to panic a little bit. I mean, it was definitely freaky. I did, what I've been trained to do. My mentors have been like hikers, mountaineers, and people in the service. So like first thing I did was like stop moving and then do box breathing, which is you're breathing in, you're exhaling. Some people do 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, and you're just calming yourself down. And then I'm starting to think like, okay, like how am I going to get out of this? And I think to myself, okay, I don't want to move anymore because I don't know where the bottom of this like spruce trap is. And so then I thought to myself, okay, let me pull myself closer. So let me punch through with my right arm to get to the tree, like the trunk of the tree, and then pull myself into the tree. So if I fall, I can at least grab on so I don't fall any further. And then I can try to pull myself up with the trunk of the tree. So after a while, I was able to do that. And I want to say that took me about 15 minutes
Oh wow.
to do it slow. And so now, after I got past that area, there was another spruce trap, and it was really hard. And then I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get back? Because that area was being hit by the sun. So it was getting soft. So the longer that would go on in the day, the more the traps would be there. So I'm like, do I turn around? So I'm like, you know what? I'd already said I'm not going to summit. Let me get more experience. So making a long story short, I kept going. I got to about, maybe 0.3 or like 0.25 from the summit. And then the trail was gone, and there was a ski trail, but you're not supposed to walk on the ski trail. So I try to respect all the rules. And I said, you know what? I'm done. Like, it's going to take me probably another hour or two to figure out how to get to the summit. Now I'm looking at, I got to the summit at maybe 6, and now I got to head back, and I got to contend with those spruce straps, which I don't know how bad that's going to be. Coincidentally, I ran into these snowboarders who I think they were high because they're saying all this contradictory stuff, but they were like, and it's interesting, like, no, it's fine. You had plenty of time. You had plenty of time. And like it was like such bad information because like I didn't have plenty of time. And they didn't really know. And again, I don't fault them, but like they're telling me really how people who get themselves in trouble think, which is, hey, you know what? It's like 4 something, it's almost 5, but you got plenty, you got like maybe 2, 3 more hours of daylight. It's like so close, like you'll be fine, but they're not factoring in turning around, like
Yeah.
getting back, like what's your energy level, like dealing with the spruce traps, like what happens, like if that area is really bad and you have to start bushwhacking way off the trail, and then you find other spruce traps, like, and I just said, dude, no, I'm not going up there. And then they
Right.
just like snowboarded off. But on the way back, to answer your question, like what I did was I was concerned I would fall in a big trap. It could be like the same. I could really get stuck. So I tied a bowline around my waist. And then I want to say I had 40 feet of rope. and I tied it around my waist, and then I did overhand knots like every 3 feet or 2.5, 3 feet, and that would be used as grip. And then what I did was I took the rope and I would loop it over around a tree that was strong, and then I took the other end. So like one end is a bow line around me. The other end, I did a figure eight on a bite, and I clipped that into my carabiner or non climbing carabiner. So it's not rated for climbing. So I'll explain this.
Mhm.
So the whole system worked like this. The rope is around the tray. You got the overhand knots. So as I went down, I could go about 16 feet because it's like looped. And when I would go too far, it would tug on my carabiner. So I know like, oh, I gotta like stop, secure myself, undo the carabiner, then pull the rope to me, then find another tree to loop it around. Now, if I fell in, I could then hold onto the rope and pull myself out. So
Nice.
remember, this isn't because my friends like, oh, that wasn't rock, that wasn't climbing rating. Goes on. I'm like, dude, relax. Like, I wasn't on the side of a cliff. Like, I'm on a trail descending, but not. It's not 90 degrees, so it's not even my rope. My rope was not. It's not a climbing rope. It's a rope that I could pull and use to pull myself up. So that was like my whole system. So like once I would go down, I'd hook myself around the tree, and then I would pull it to myself because remember you can't tie it to a tree because then you can't go because how are you going to get it off the tree? So you're
Yeah.
just looping it, and then I loop it again, and I got past that area. I did not fall in the spruce trap, but if I did, I would have been able to pull myself out.
Nice. And this was in Vermont.
This is my Vermont, yeah,
So basically you were doing mountaineering level stuff in Vermont.
right.
Yeah. So that shows you how crazy the East Coast can be, that people.
That's a whole nother debate. So I get in these debates, and here I know people like I don't know why they think like this. So when I'm in the winter in the Adirondacks, this is mountaineering. Like if you Google mountaineering and you look at the definition, it is. But people are like, no, it's not. It's not out west, and they go this whole rant. But if you look at out west, which I've been there, like in my mind, again, I haven't done Denali, but I've done bigger mountains. One's in New Mexico, Colorado, and you don't have like all the it's just that yeah, there's dangers, yes there's high winds, yes there's cold temperatures, which you have out here in the Adirondacks, in the Whites, in Vermont, but the skills it's not like a quote unquote hike. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, like this season I'm doing mountaineering. So like that's the switch in my head. So like I got to get out of I'm hiking, because when I'm hiking, like I just bring anything. It's not really that big of a deal. There's not as much danger. And I think when we look at the people who get themselves in trouble, in all the cases, they're treating it like hiking. Like no snowshoes, no
Yeah.
proper equipment. They want to go light like you're on a hike. They skip all these things. So like when you look at these level of skills, like, the ropes, nap, which halftime doesn't help you. The map you put on your phone because halftime you can't lay the map out to like do all this stuff.
Exactly.
Compass, the compass is great, which I've used many times to just general know what direction do I go, not like oh I'm like trying to figure out the bearing. It's more like what direction, and then the ice axe, which I've gotten in these debates with people. Oh, you don't need an ice axe. That you like it's true. Like you can theoretically get away with a lot of things in any situation. Like you could drive like 100 miles an hour with your eyes closed with no seatbelt on, and in theory, like make it. But like that's not best practices. So I bring an ice axe sometimes, rope sometimes, and then some people, like especially old timers, will sort of laugh. But what they don't understand is they're not in an environment where they don't know it. So like they're like, oh, I don't need that here because they're cherry picking days,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they also
Exactly.
know every handhold and everything. Like I have to use rope in the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon sometimes because like there's a lot of air. It's either trailless or you run into these difficult situations, and you don't know all the routes because it's not. I haven't done it like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds of it to like memorize everything.
Yep. Yeah. So it just shows you how underestimated the East Coast can be, especially like you said in the Adirondacks, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and like you said, people cherry pick their days. There's 60-mile-an-hour winds. I'm not going to go there, and
Exactly.
you go up there with everything whatsoever, so you can. Summit, or you can try to summit and then have that experience of maybe not summiting and be like, okay, so what can I do next time to maybe summit? Or was that the day not to summit? And, I made the right choice. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
it's so much different. With the Catskills, of course, we don't have the open summits. It's a whole different story, but you can still run into those situations in certain areas in the Catskills. But,
Right.
spruce traps, maybe that'll be a whole nother story. We get a bad winter, but up in the ADKs, definitely we'll be talking about that stuff tonight. So interesting, crazy story. So the Grand Canyon, I'm gonna check that out definitely, man. That looks fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I really recommend it too. It's very remote, and it's not like, you know, so remote like you're gonna get yourself in trouble. Like the trailhead is like super far. It reminds me of the good old days of the Catskills, like in 2013 and 14, where there was less people and it wasn't there weren't so many defined herd paths. And you really
Yeah,
had to, but still you can get back to the trailhead and a road, relatively like quickly.
yeah,
Not like Adirondacks where you have 18, 20 miles.
yeah, exactly. And you can't follow a river because that river will become bigger and bigger and swallow you whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I recently, yesterday, I think I told you. Well, I don't know if I told you. I went with Joe Ferry, Mike Gross, and Ralph Reindeck, and we looked for a plane crash on Tremper Mountain. So
Very
that was
cool.
yeah. So we bushwhacked up Tremper from the normal trailhead, and then we bushwhacked right off of the summit to the east to look for a plane crash that Joe was looking up, and we found nothing. And also, we decided that because it was so steep and so crazy, and the leaves were out of control, and the footing was horrible, we were like, we'd rather do a 4-mile road walk than go back up that part of the mountain. So it was crazy. It was,
Good decision.
yeah. It was. It was all state property. We found like state property. Thank God for Cal Topo. But it was just one of those cool experiences. Beautiful day, perfect weather. These guys are old timers, are fantastic with their stories. Joe, Joe, he's got stories galore. He's been everywhere,
Yep, absolutely.
plane crashes all over the place. So I think it was a total of like 8 miles with around. Hold on, let me pull my map up. Which is it's everybody thinks Trumper is a piece of cake, but it's not. So it was 8 miles with around 2,000 feet of gain. So it's fun. It's fun
I'm
times.
I'm always amazed at people who minimize like 2,000 feet of gain. It's like bizarre to me. I can't figure it. I mean, that's a lot of gain.
It it definitely is. It's crazy how they're just like, that's nothing. Yeah, okay, but yeah, cool time. Had a fun time. Joe wants to come back on the show again to talk about some more plane crashes, so we'll get him on here later on. It'll be a good time. So no new Catskill news. I encourage volunteering all the time. 100% volunteering. Please volunteer. Dave and I volunteer for search and rescue. New Jersey Trail Conference I volunteer for. So just get out there maybe once a year, maybe twice, 3 times a year for an hour or two and help out. Come on. You guys are hiking for free. So yeah, I usually do a little bit of Catskill Mountain history, but not tonight, David. We're going to break it right into your stories. Now, Dave has some crazy stories of hiking in the winter, and he got some crazy experiences with some great outcomes. And he definitely wants to share them. And I'm love to hear it. Definitely more. We don't have really much time with search and rescue. We just get together, leave, and then do our thing. So I'm going to hear some more of the stories that he's told me somewhat in a little bit of time. You're like, yeah, I saved this guy. That's it. But all right. So welcome our guest of the night, David.
Let's go.
And his ADK winter solo rescues, everything else that he did 7,000 times. I'm trying to find the chat that we had that has all the stuff that you've done. So, Dave, why don't you give a little background about yourself, and then we'll get into the questions and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I got started hiking a long time ago, and but then I stopped for a long time, and then I just started hiking again in like around 2006 or so, and then I kept it real local in New Jersey. I did like every trail in New Jersey, which was great. Like I love doing, people think, I do a lot of big days and stuff, but I do like simple stuff, and there's a lot of cool things out in New Jersey. Then starting in like 2012, I went up to the Catskills a couple times, and then I did it more aggressively in 2013. And then 2014, I started working on winter and getting more aggressive. And at that time, it's like people listening now, like you almost can't appreciate like the way it used to be. Like I'm telling you, it was hard, like multiple feet of snow. Like it was unbelievable. It snowed all season, and like my coldest day was still in the Catskills at like negative 54 wind chill. I guess I did exceed the wind chill once in Adirondacks at negative 60, but it was like a negative 28 day base standing temperature. And there, I mean, I learned a lot. So it was great. And then after, I finished winter, then I did a solo round, single season round. And then my parents got sick, and I was taking care of them for many years. And then I got, once, my parents unfortunately passed away, I went up to the Adirondacks and then started that aggressively in 2019 when a lot of people from the Catskills in 2013, 14, 15, they had already gone up and finished their 46. And some had finished the winters and stuff like over a couple years. So it worked out great for me because A, I got to take care of my parents, which I wanted to do. And then B, when I actually started in the Adirondacks, I met this guy, Steve, and Steve's a super modest guy, arguably the most accomplished. He wouldn't say this, but I'm saying it. One of the most accomplished, or the most accomplished, like people in the Northeast. He's done a 115 grid. So, like, if you just think about that, that's
Wow.
yeah, that's Mount Katahdin 12 times. Like, that's not cherry picking one off, and he didn't do it in like 35 years. He did it, and many years, but like I don't
Wow.
know the exact time frame. So like Steve, he was a machine, very skilled. So I met him, and then he introduced me to a guy by the name of Joe, and Joe has done multiple single season solos, and the 115 winner, and a single season whites and Adirondacks in the same season. And he's done 14 consecutive single seasons in a row, which is like the record. Like think about that. And
Did you say 14 single seasons in a row?
in a row.
Jesus.
And one of those seasons was like including the whites. So white single season and Adirondacks in the same season in that consecutive. So, the advantage I had is just like knowing someone or some people who have done big things, and like it's like achievable. So like the scale and like in the Adirondacks is obviously like I feel like most like groupings are 4,000 feet elevation gain, which is much different than the Catskills. And then it's just a lot more. And then like if you meet somebody, they've done it. It's just like for listeners who have like ever worked out and like, I used to power lift and play football for 14 years. I remember when I was trying to get like over a 600-pound squat. Like if you go to a gym where everybody's squatting over 600 pounds, you will squat over 600 pounds. So like if you're like talking to people who like do these big things in the winter, it gets sort of in your head and you learn from them.
So now, is that where we all start, of course, as rookies when hiking. Is that where you basically like learned all your info about like gear and distances and difficulty and stuff? Those two dudes and stuff, or did 2013 internet was here, but did you use that a decent amount, or was it just from those two dudes?
That's a good question. So like, I'm not big on the internet. I'm big on because half of what I have people
Hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you, David. David doesn't even have a Facebook, everyone. So just let that sink in.
I feel like
Chuck has a Facebook and you don't.
Half the stuff is like completely off the wall. So like Steve is this guy Steve, he's a great guy. He's less with numbers and like equations. So Joe was a scientist and I'm like a math guy. So like Joe for the winter stuff, like he really helped me out a lot and thinking about it as like an equation, like how fast are you going, decreasing your output, miles, like the amount of time it should take, like almost making like systems that are sort of mathematically geared for like decision making. So I learned a lot from that from Joe. And then in terms of like training and stuff like that and what to wear, it was a combination of a couple of guys who are in the military and then trial and error. So
yeah,
like I have a system that a lot of people used to think I was really overweight, which is hilarious. But I deviate from most people. But as I have learned, I've not been in the military, but according to people that have helped me, you want food and various things on your person in addition to your pack in case something goes wrong with your pack. And I always like that because I do a lot of solos. So, I have a jacket that's wind resistant. It's a great shell. It's very strong, so it doesn't get torn easily. Like some people who have these big puffies, they get torn. They get a $700 puffy got torn. Mm-hmm. So this jacket's great. Loaded up with some food so I can eat. I'm constantly eating on the go, and then also hydration. So I learned that on my own, sort of over time. And then I figured out that the best base layer for me, which I use Smart Wool, the best pants, I use Cool KUHL. I love those pants. And I add the base layer of Smart Wool. And I can go to, just with that combo and a base layer on my the top of me, I could go to -15, -20.
Wow. And that's great. Like you said, that's very great trial and error, I mean, but you're not the type of guy that I would see doing like, ooh, it's -15. Let me see if I can go check out these things that I just bought from, Walmart. That's not the right thing to do.
No, not at all. So you always have to remember too, it's almost like a science project. So like you can't change too many variables. So like, you're going out, with your base layer, like if you're testing a new base layer, you say to yourself, okay, if this goes wrong or I'm super cold, like I myself I bring multiple other jackets and I could, with my whole system, I don't bring enough to go to -50. I would just change out I wouldn't use KUHL cool pants. Mm-hmm. I would have these other pants, but in terms of my top, my hands, and my head, I could go to -50, which in my pack I'm always carrying. So like I'm always carrying like enough stuff that it went to -50. I could. It's just on the bottom of me. I would have a challenge because it's not like I bring a extra set of pants.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and plus also the lower half of your body gets wet during those winter times and stuff, and then you might have to change that out. I mean, you might have waterproof, but it leaks in once in a while, and that'll change the whole dynamic of your hike.
Right.
Yeah. So did you start your winter hiking quest in the Adirondacks or the Catskills?
Catskills.
Catskills. And you had some good experiences there?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I'm beating a dead horse. When we did it, I mean, because I did with Chuck and a bunch of other guys. Man, it was hard. Like I'm telling you, I remember going to Westkill once. I'm not. This is not like I'm old and I'm like telling old stories. It was 3.5 feet of snow, like unbroken from that. You go to Westkill, that little parking lot, 3.5 feet of snow, and like in 3.5, I don't care what people say. Like it was just too exhausting for the time I had. I'm like, it is just way too exhausting. That was in 2015.
Yeah.
There were some monster storms. So like now I know you can get away with the whole season with no micro spikes, but it wasn't like that back in the day.
Yeah. So when you were there, was that like, what were you doing when you hit those massive negative temperatures? Do you remember?
Oh, I was doing let me see. Let me hold on a second. Let me look that up. Okay, let me look right now. So it was what's the one by Big Indy? Not Fur.
Yeah, that's fair. Eagle?
Yeah, it was Eagle.
Eagle? No way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it was really cold.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Eagle doesn't have a
Hmm.
view or anything, too. And you got one of the worst temperatures ever. That's crazy.
So the day I was doing too, so even back then I still had the whole like, oh, let me go out. I don't even want to summit. Let me get the experience. Like my whole goal that day was to just go out and go 100 feet and then just turn around. I didn't know if I'd freeze to death. I didn't know, like as crazy as it sounds. Like I didn't know if I'd be able to pee. So I had a lot of experiments. Like I just didn't know. It was so cold, coldest day of the season, and I learned like, oh, it's cold, but it's not like you'd pee and your pee would freeze in like midair, or like you'd open your mouth and your whole mouth would freeze up. So I did learn that day. But again, that wasn't above tree line.
Yeah.
So now, when you get to other places, Adirondacks, White, you get above tree line, you get wind. That's when you can't really see where you're going. So mistakes are deadly. So that type of thing.
Yeah. That's crazy stuff. So, now, when you've been hiking in the Adirondacks and Catskills and stuff like that, the Adirondacks are a whole nother story. Are there any times that when you were there, did you ever think you'd like need a rescue?
No, but in the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, yes.
No way.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a super bad experience in Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. I don't know if you want me to talk about that, but not in the
Yeah,
Adirondacks because I was, I had so much experience that if anything, like I said, I failed 4 times on Kucharaga, like in a row over a year and a 2 seasons, and then got it in the second season. I knew when to turn back. Like when you're just dying, you're breaking a foot, 2 feet of snow for many, 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 many miles. It's time to, turn in the POW. So I really had a harder time with heat. And then one time I went to the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. I was that guy. I was back in 2012. I made a lot of mistakes. I fasted. I worked out in the morning. I didn't bring that much water. I was like, oh, it's only, I would pull the old, it's only this much. Oh, it's only quick 8 miles, go up and back. I did not have a map that was correct. So the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, back then, there weren't like really even maps. You get it from a book, and the map in the book was wrong. There weren't apps. The only app back then was Backcountry Navigator, but like
I remember
somebody
that.
had to like make the track. It was, but in the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, most of the trails aren't even on any of the apps at all. It's like crazy. So, make a long story short, I, had gone up, got really hot, and I got about halfway, and I just got so dehydrated, and what this is heat exhaustion. I learned now, and I just couldn't figure out where to go. I started going in circles. I ran out of food. I didn't have any more water. My body started cramping. Eventually, I ran into like these bears. So they didn't attack
Jesus.
me, but that derailed my route. And then I just like my system started shutting down. Like I literally thought I was going to die. It was like weird. And then I kept telling myself I was going to die, which was the opposite. I had this is so random. A couple weeks prior, I had one of the gyms I work out in. Like one of them was like a basement gym. It was like not the world's greatest people, but there was like a Moroccan knife fighter. I have no idea. I don't even know what that is. I Googled that now. I don't even know what like this guy's a Moroccan knife fighter. I don't even know what that is. So he was talking about like what to do if you think you're gonna die. He had like this thing in the back of the gym. It wasn't like a workshop. It's like a random guy like doing this training. And like, one of the things he said is that when you start feeling you're gonna die, you start thinking negatively. The more you think negatively, it sends like rushes all these chemicals in your body, makes the situation work. So you have to counter that with like telling yourself like you're gonna live, things are gonna you can turn it around. And then he also is a big advocate of breathing. So I did all that. And I got to tell you, I gave up on trying to complete the loop and I just had to retrace. So I wound up going 18 miles
Oh
on
shit.
an 8 mile hike. There's so many loops when if I didn't just retrace and forget completing the loop, and I wasn't going to summit that. There was no mountain, and there's no summit. It was like, oh, complete the loop. That I made it back. I don't know if I would be on the talking to you now if I would have kept trying. I was dying. My whole body seized up. I remember I drank a gallon of water, which now I know you probably should. I should have gone to the hospital and never peed. I came home, barely made it
Wow.
home. I had another gallon of water, never peed. So I was really messed up. I think because I was way younger that was how I survived. But it was I got to tell you, it was so freaky, and I was so freaked out. And then one of my mentors, who was like a military guy, told me I had to go back out there, or that like whole thing would calcify in my head, and I'd probably be like scared to death to even go hiking. So I went back out there like a couple weeks later, and just in the area, did a little hike, not the whole loop. Eventually, I want to say a year and a half later, I figured out what happened. The map in the book was wrong. There's a spot I actually go there, I hike it. It's like the 5th mile in where you make this turn, and in the book it tells you this way that's the wrong way. And
Wow.
I always think about that's what got me way off. And I just kept going a loop and a loop and a loop, up, down, getting tired, trying to find water. The crazy thing is, when I redid the whole thing, there were water sources. I just wasn't in my right mind. Like there were water
Wow.
sources probably within 40 feet. I just wasn't thinking straight.
No shit.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's crazy. I've never heard of anybody in like, well, I mean, maybe it's just because they haven't come out, but like Pennsylvania area, needing that kind of how crazy that is. You think Pennsylvania is a fat place with the industrial warehouses. You don't think that there's a Grand Canyon in the Pennsylvania area, but after you saying this and me checking out the topographic map, that looks like an intense, pretty cool freaking place.
Yeah, and the thing that's freaky is that there's like you just never see anyone. I want to say in 11 years, I don't think I've seen more than 12 people.
Wow.
Like it's so bizarre.
And
Like
how'd you learn about this place?
I can't even remember. I don't somehow I was like looking at map and I'm like, oh, what's this whole area? And then I went out there and I was shocked. Like it wasn't in Backcountry Navigator. I couldn't find that. There was no like first thing I was like, oh, where are like the Catskill kind of maps? And there weren't any.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh my God, this is like I can explore out here. Like the old days, the old original pioneers of the Catskills.
Yeah. That looks fantastic place, man. I'll have to check that out. So, a lot of the times you see online now and stuff, those situations where people are getting ready to summit, they go above tree line and then they have winds and then snow and stuff like that with the cairns, and barely you can see, 30 feet in front of you. Have you ever had those? I mean, I guarantee you've had those times. Can you talk to us about those times of where you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm starting to go and this is starting to get a little sketchy.
Oh yeah, all the time. Whenever you go above tree line, high winds, winter, if you're not freaked out, you're not telling the truth. Because the best of the best, they get freaked out. Like, they totally do. So like Joe, mentor of mine, great guy, amazing shape conditioning. He was gonna do Marcy Skylight and Gray. They did Skylight and Gray over in the Adirondacks. And they just saw it's just the weather's too bad. They knew it would be like you wouldn't be able to see the Karens. They're like, hey, we're not doing it today. So what you do is you get up like up there. There's Marcy has the Karens, Skylight has the Karens, Algonquin, Iroquois. I'm trying to think if that's yeah, that's the above tree line, high wind Karen areas. And I always have like a compass heading in my head, a picture of the map on my phone because you can't, like on high winds, you can't lay the map out like you're getting ready to have like a picnic and with your, significant
Yeah.
other. There is this whole thing on it. I don't go off tangent where you hear map and compass, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you just can't lay your map out like you're on a picnic with your sweetheart, and you just like I get why they say that. You should have a map. I always bring a map, but you need a picture of it because at least you can look at the phone and have an idea. And then, as my mentor told me, who was an Army and then a Marine sniper, he's like, "You got to remember the map, Dave. Like he'd scream at me, and like I never thought about it. Like he's like, "You memorize the map. You can't."
Yeah.
You think when you're out there and the enemy's shooting at you, think you lay your map out like you're out? He'd be like, "You're taking your sweetheart out on a picnic." So you have that, and then okay, this is my bearing. It's 90 degrees, 93 degrees, 47 degrees. Okay, I have goggles on. They're not fogging up. I have anti-fog stuff. That's another thing. And I reasonably know what's the direction. I should have done this in 3 season when there isn't snow, and you have to just weigh like once I get over there, am I going to be able to get back? Is the trail going to have to be rebroken? Do I have the energy? And for a lot of people, the answer is do it another day. That's the answer. The answer isn't, there's a magic way. It's do it another day. Now,
Yeah.
if you're with somebody else, it is unbelievably much more easier to do this with another person.
Yeah. Because number one,
Absolutely.
yeah, they can, switching breaking trail makes a whole difference than just
Right.
yourself. The
There's just like
exhaustion.
something like 4 eyes equals like, I feel like 10 eyes, but 2 eyes equals like one. Like in a
Yep.
crazy way, when it's just you, it's almost like you're even more limited than just having 2 eyes. Just like you have one eye. But then if you have just even one other person, it's just for some reason you can just figure out much more. It's much safer. You can see more, make better decisions, at least with the people I've been with and others that I talk to. So, but again, there's situations where people get themselves in trouble when they're with a group and they don't think about like, well, how are we going to get back?
Mhm. Yeah. So those times, I mean, I've always, it's funny. I'm kind of like you. I like to test myself. I mean, I haven't been up to the Adirondacks like you have in those instances, but I've been to the Catskills of where I've like, okay, it's -50. I hiked well, no, it was like -45, maybe -40 on Overlook Mountain. And I wanted to test myself. I wanted to test my gear. I wanted to test like, what do I need to better? And it was a fantastic time. But those instances that you've been in with like high winds and snow and you can't see 20 feet in front of you, I haven't been in those situations yet. But the thing is it's what's crazy. Is it crazy that I want to do that at least sometime and I want to actually get myself into that kind of situation? Is that bad?
No, I think that's so. No, that's how like my training. So like I used to go out in a blizzard, but only go to the base of the mountain just for the experience. No summit, and just turn around. So like, you could arguably say like, oh, I want to experience this. I mean, you could go just beyond the tree line if let's say you're by yourself and you say, look, you know what? I'm going to turn around. Now I feel, okay, here's the wind, here's the temps. Like I'm learning. Like everything isn't about, I got to summit. I got to summit. Like you got to have some building blocks. So I don't think that's crazy at all. I think it's smart versus all of a sudden you find yourself in that situation. You're like, I've never experienced this my whole entire life. And now I'm a meme on Facebook.
Nice. Yes, and that is correct. Definitely a meme. How do you know about memes? You don't even have Facebook.
I only know about memes because you send them to
That's
me.
true.
You have to tell the audience that like when the meme is going around, by the time it gets to me, like even if I send you a meme, you're like, dude, I got that meme like 3 weeks ago.
That's true. That is definitely true. And you talk about when you said memorize the map. I am the same way. I kind of before I go even hiking in the Catskills, I memorize my route up. Like, I'm going to take this shoulder up, go all the way up, and then maybe take this shoulder down. I have that in my head, and then I will research, the bearing that you might have, even in the nicest of days. But I want to test myself. I want to make sure I know this in case something happens. In case you know just for later instances, like you said, going up the Adirondacks or something, you memorize that route, and then in your head you're like, okay, if I turn around right here and I continue on this ridge line, this will lead me to here. Instead of being like, oh, there's two ridge lines that break off. You don't want to go left. You want to go straight. That's why I did it. That's why I remember it. So that's very good information. Very good strategery. But also, so I remember you several times telling me that you have times of where you've had to rescue people off the mountains. Can you give me a couple of your memories of that great times that you've told me about?
Right. And again, this is myself, not related to any organization. These opinions are mine, go to me.
Do you
That's
have your
it.
own insurance?
It all goes to me. So nobody, I don't want anybody to critique other organizations. So, I've had quite a few. And, I've had these debates with people that are like, oh, how come this always happens to you, David? And, I care. I'm not just gonna like ignore somebody. And a bunch of times I knew people were probably gonna have a problem based on what I saw them starting with. So I sort of like made sure I was around. So I'll tell you a couple of them. So one time there's a big storm in the Adirondacks, and all I wanted to do was just go to the base of Gray and then turn around. Like I did not want to go summit Marcy. It was like snowing super hard. It was very windy. So, I'm going, it's very windy, but you're in the trees. I'm breaking trail. I'm probably breaking 8 inches of snow. It's the end of the season. So I was really in great conditioning. So I get to the base of Gray and I say, you know what? Let me go up a little bit, maybe go up a third, maybe, a quarter. And I'm like, I'm not going to summit, just get a little more experience and turn around. So I head up and all of a sudden I see like tracks and I'm like shocked. Like all of a sudden it's like someone dropped out of the air. I'm like, why are there tracks? And all of a sudden I see something red and I'm like, oh, that's like somebody there. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I doubt he's doing what I'm doing. I think he's trying to get to the summit. So I hightailed over to this person. And keep in mind, we're like, I want to say we're 10% of the way to the summit, like 10%. Like we
Wow.
just started effectively. So
Yeah.
I go up this guy, it's high winds. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to the summit. And I'm like, dude, like, are you sure? And he goes, no, we're almost there. We're almost there. And I'm like, dude, you're not almost there. He's like, no, there. I'm like, so he's pointing. I'm like, that's like more than a half a mile. Like he went probably 0.05, like
Wow.
like less than 1/10 of the way there. So I'm trying to reason with this guy. He's not making any sense. So he goes, follow me. So I said, okay. So I follow him. He makes a circle. He goes, there's footprints. There's people here. And I was like, dude, that's us. And he goes, oh, okay. It's crazy. So I'm like, oh my God. I didn't really understand that this guy probably had hypothermia. So I pulled him. I said, dude, we're done. We're done with this match. It's over. We're done. I felt like we were like in a boxing match. I'm like, dude, this is it. You got to throw in the towel. You're done, brother. So I pull him and he goes, oh, let's go. And I said, all right. I said, dude, forget about let's see. I go, let's see. Maybe Skylight is broken out and it'll be easier. He goes, okay. So we go down. I said, you lead. So this guy leads. It was like he was drunk. I mean, the craziest way. Like we should have got down in probably like 100 feet. This guy went in this whole convoluted way that probably turned into like 300 feet.
Wow.
So we get down, and I was like, dude, you're not making good. You're not routing well. So I go, what do you want to do? We got to call it. He goes, no, we're gonna go to Skylight. So I said, fine. So he looks at Skylight. He goes a little. He goes, can you help break trail? I go, absolutely not. This is your idea. I'm coming behind you. No way. So he goes. He like falls down. He looks all sad. It's like, I mean, we're at the Four Corners. We're by Lake Tierra Clouds, which starts the Hudson River. So you got this whole spot. You're getting hammered by the snow. There's probably 3.5 feet of snow. It snows up there a lot in the nature of the lake, and the way it fills in. So he goes, I need help. I need help. I said, dude, this is it. I said, dude, do you think anyone in the right mind came up Marcy, then down and broke out Skylight and isn't at Gray already? He looks and he goes, he shook his head. I go, that's right. The answer is no. I said, dude, we're not going to be able to do this. Like, and I go, dude, how long did it take you to get up to Gray? And he's like trying to think. I go, did it take you 9 hours? And he goes, yes. And I go, how long do you think it's going to take you to get up Skylight, then come back? And he just doesn't know. Like, obviously, it's going to be like infinite. If it took him 9 hours, yeah, he broke the trail for himself, but it's starting to fill back in, and he's tired, and he has hypothermia, and he hasn't eaten, blah, blah, blah. So he says, I can't go back. I go, why? He goes, my friend will make fun of me. And I'm like, your friend? And he goes, my friend. I go, who's your friend? He goes, my friend on the internet. And I go, dude, do you think I freaking care about your friend? And I go, we're going to get freaking killed. And I said a lot of other things I can't say on this thing. I go, we got to freaking go. It's getting worse, bro. So he's like, can you take a picture of me so I can prove there's a lot of snow? I grab his camera. I'm like, give me your freaking camera. And I go over there right now, and we're 2 photos, and then we're gone. So I take 2 photos. He goes, more. So I take more. He goes, a couple more. And I go, dude, you're freaking pushing me. So I get him off that lake. We go down to where we're sheltered, and I go, dude, man, you got to go to a freaking psychiatrist or something. The fact that you were talking about this internet friend, some freaking loser, or whoever you got going on, and now it's pushing you to do all this stuff. So anyway, I said to this kid, I said, look, I'm going back to the lodge. I go, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to Upper Works. And I go, dude, I go, you can come with me and I can drive you back there, which would be far. So to drive from the lodge Upper Works is no hop, skip, and a jump. But I was willing to do it. He goes, no, I'll be good. So I didn't do a full body check over, patient assessment. But I said, you got to eat, dude. Like, get some food, get some water. I like rejuvenated him. I said, have some of this. I gave him some of my stuff. He had some stuff. So I go, what's your mom's number? He looks at me. I go, dude, I know you live at home with your parents. I knew you should young. He goes, here, okay. And I said, give me that freaking number. I said, what's your number? I said, dude, if you don't freaking call me by 10:45 p.m., I am going to call all the Rangers, and that's it. So, don't go on side freaking adventures. Don't get down there and think, oh, let me just try to grab Marshall or some mountain. You look on your freaking app or something. You go freaking straight home. Do you understand what straight home means? Go to your freaking car. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Jeez, like 5 or 6 times.
Right. Go home. No side adventures. I don't care if you feel good. Whatever you're thinking, it's not going to be that easy. I knew you're going to get over there. You say, "Oh, let me just try to go grab such and such." It's only Marshall's only like an extra 2 miles. It's going to be a problem. He goes, "Okay." I said, "You better freaking promise." And I said, "Don't freaking break a promise me." And I go, "Because I'm from Jersey and we don't like that." No, 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 I will. So, I rejuvenate him more. And then he heads off. I'm like nervous.
Yeah, right.
And make a long story short, he did get back. He called me about 10:20, and he thanked me. And the next year I did see him on a different mountain, and he thanked me and he goes, "Dude, I would have gotten killed if it wasn't for you." So I appreciated that. Mistakes that he made, didn't plan, his dress wasn't the best, didn't eat enough, didn't hydrate enough, in over his head, didn't understand when he needed to turn around, worried about an internet friend.
Almost
That's
everything. Jesus.
yeah, that's the summary of it. So there's that one. Again, that was not with an organization. Everything I said and did was based on my own beliefs, blah blah blah. So it's all me. So I had that one, and then I had even another. This was really weird. So this one, I was going to climb Marshall. So Marshall is you could go through the lodge or Upper Works, but I normally go Upper Works because it's easier for me. So Upper Works is really remote. If you want to make a horror movie, which I can't believe they haven't made one on Upper Works, it's an Upper Works. Like it's so remote, it's just weird. Like even on a weekend in the winter, it's lonely. So I head out there. The trail's unbroken. Every time I do Marshall, half time they're always unbroken. So I'm heading to Marshall. And then these kids come up from behind me real fast. And I go, "Oh, these guys make a mistake." Because when people are like running and they're young, I wonder, do they know what they're doing? So I looked at the gear and it wasn't good. Very small pack. And I said, this is going to be a problem. So I shadow them. And there's like a tall one and a shorter one. The tall one's going fast. The shorter one's like trying to keep up. Anyway, we get to the lean-to, and we all decide to stop. Like they stopped at the lean-to on the split off to go to Marshall, and I did too. And I looked at the little ones' gloves; they were like ice, block ice. And I was like, "Dude, are you cool with those gloves?" Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I'm like, "All right, you're that guy. You're that guy. You're not fine." In my head, I'm like, "He's not fine." So his buddy like takes off, like kind of leaves him. Why is at the lean-to? So he's trying to get himself together to catch up to his buddy, and I'm like, what a freaking jerk off!
Yeah.
Like it's just dumb. Like don't freaking leave people. So I'm like, I better shadow this dude. So the taller one takes off, and the smaller one is going slower, slower as we start to climb up to Marshall. And he's like stopping. I'm like behind him. I go, "Do you okay?" "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And then eventually we get halfway up the mountain. His friend's nowhere to be found. Like he's way out in front. And this guy just falls over. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, "Dude, are you okay?" He like didn't really talk. He didn't make sense. Now I understand it's hypothermia. So, I check him out. I ask him what's wrong. I tell him to drink. I give him some of my stuff. I give him food. He says he's not hungry. I said, "Look, we're not negotiating. Eat freaking food now." I get him rejuvenated, and he says he hurt his leg and this and that, but then he won't let me call for a rescue on my satellite phone. And I'm like trying to feel his leg, and I think, it's just, I said, just step a little, and I think it's just like dehydration, but there's nothing that appears to be broken or sprained. It's just like he hurt from being sore. So I said, so he's adamant. He's adamant that he doesn't need help. And it's a tough thing. Like, what do you do if someone's like, "I don't need help. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine." Like he's like getting mad at me. And he's like, just go summit. And, it's going on. He's like arguing with me. It's a tough thing. Like you can't, like, are you the guy that's going to call for rescue? Like, think about this dilemma. It's like an ethics thing. Do you call for a rescue? A guy's gonna be like, "I didn't tell you to call for a rescue. I told you I'm fine."
Yeah.
So I leave, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, this guy's gonna have a problem. I drop pack, I fly up to the summit. As I'm going to the summit, his friend is speeding down. I go, dude, your buddy. He goes, yeah, where is he? I go, dude, he's freaking down there. He's down there. Your freaking buddy's down there. Make sure you stop and freaking help him. And I said, I got him going again, but he doesn't want any help. I don't know, because maybe I'm a stranger or whatever. So I get to the summit, lightning speed, because I drop pack, and I just literally speed down, slide, run. I mean, I can go really fast, like essentially gliding, like. And fortunately, I didn't fall. Which, if I did fall, it's not a big deal. But I got down, and sure enough, this guy had gone maybe 10 feet, and his buddy left him again. So I
Wow.
sat, and then he goes, yeah, I wouldn't mind if you help me a little bit. I said, dude, I got you. So I slowly got him down the mountain, kept, telling him to drink. And this is a crazy thing. So, he's a big political guy, big religious guy. He goes in this whole thing. So I know when people, you got to get him talking and feel good. Anyway, he's going on this whole religious things and all this stuff, which I don't even want to talk about, but I'm like, got to talk about it because I want to rejuvenate and keep him happy, not get him all bent out of shape. So we get down to the base of the mountain. He's like feeling way better. He's like, his old self. I gave him a bunch of hand warmers. I told him to get rid of the blocks of ice and use. He had like thinner gloves. I said, "You'll be fine. Just do the hand warmers. Keep moving." And then I walked him all the way to his car. It took us forever. And then the end, like I want to say the last 16th of a mile, his buddy came back from the car to look for him, and I was like, dude, like, where were you? And he's like, oh, I thought he would be fine, this and that. They were like two big religious people. And I asked him, like, what kind of freaking religious person just leaves you here and like just doesn't even care? He's like, oh, well, I didn't ask him for help. And I'm like, that's not my interpretation of all this religious stuff. So got him home, jumped in the car, just say, hey, thanks for the help, and left. So
Wow.
that was that. That was a tough one because it took a long time. And that's the dilemma that I face with. I've had a lot of solo rescues. I had one woman. She was totally cooperative, asked for help, didn't argue with me, didn't say she was fine, and I got her out of the spruce trap in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. She was stuck and had been stuck for a while, and that was fine. But some of the guys, like, there's just like this guy pride, and they're like, no, I'm fine. Like, I can tell you, every guy, except for one guy that I've solo rescue, starts off with, no, I'm fine. Even though if they're literally not fine, they're like debating with you. They're fine.
Wow.
So got that guy going. And then I had another similar thing. This was just hiking in the winter in Bear Mountain. Older guy. I'd done a big day, like a 20-mile day, like 5,000 feet elevation. I was going to do one more time up Bear Mountain. Saw this older guy. He had on sneakers, an empty bottle, no pack, no jacket, nothing. It was pretty warm out. And he was like falling and stumbling, trying to go up the mountain. And I said, sir, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I said, oh, sir, like, would you like something to drink? No, I'm good. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, sir, like, what are you doing today? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to the summit. And I'm like, oh, sir, it's like, it's like 7:30. How long do you think it's going to take you? He's like, oh, I should be there soon. And I'm like, at the rate the guy's going, he would maybe be there at 9:30 at night, and it would be dark. So I was like, sir, it's probably going to take a little longer than a second. I said it's gonna, and I said I'm not trying to brag, but it'd take me an hour to get up there, and I'm not Carl Lewis, but I'm in pretty good conditioning, and I said I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you might want to turn around. And he's like, no, I'll be fine. Just go ahead. And I say, okay. So I go ahead, I go up a little higher, and then I watch him from above, and he's literally falling. Like, he's slipping, he's falling, obviously can't see or whatever. So I come back down, and I say, hey, can I just give you a drink? And he says, okay. So he takes a drink. I said, what's going on with your light? Like, are you gonna have a headlamp? He goes, no, I don't have one. He goes, oh, I'm gonna use my phone. And I go, how much phone battery you have left? He's like half, three quarters. And I knew because dealing with kids, I said, huh. I go, do you have closer to like a quarter? He goes, yeah. So like think about it, three quarters of a battery left, right? All of a sudden in a minute, he's like, you know what? I have like a quarter. So like who knows if it was like an eighth? And I said, I think that kind of burns up. I go, I'm no Steve Jobs. I said this. I go, but I think that burns up your battery pretty quick. He's like, I go, you want me to call someone to help? I said, because he said, my knee's really hurting. I said, dude, let me just call, they'll come, no big deal. They're not going to charge you. It's not going to be a big thing. I'll stay with, no, no, no. I can do it. I'm fine. I'm like, oh, I got another one of these. So we're in this like standoff. So finally, I say to the guy, I said, hey, man, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah, sure. I said, dude, I got to be honest with you. I don't want to go. I don't want to be alone, like, in the dark by myself. I said, would you mind coming with me? And he was like, no, no, absolutely, absolutely. I'll come with you. So like at least I can like help. So he's helping me. Now it's like he's rescuing me, right?
Yeah.
So and I say, I said if I get a little, sometimes I get a little scared of heights, a little fearful. Like, would you mind if we kind of went back the other way, trying to, get him to turn around? He says, oh, my knee really hurts. I can only go up, but I can't go down. I said, are you really good to go up? He goes, yeah, yeah, it just can't go down. I go, how did you? Because he said he went to some other mountain at that day in the park. I go, how did you get down the mountain? He goes, oh, I got a ride from the police. So like he was at some mountain and the police gave him a ride to the base of Bear Mountain.
Jesus.
He can only go up but not down. So we went up. Here's another guy hitting me with all his political stuff and this and that and the other thing. I rejuvenate. He got all excited because he's like, "Oh man, you and I are on the same page, man. We really, you're a young kid. It's great that you're just thinking like me. I mean, I'm not gonna get a big debate with him. So it takes forever to get him to the summit, and then his car's there, and I go, "Hey man, like, now that it's like almost 10 p.m." Could you give me a ride down the mountain? He's like, yeah, I can give you a ride down the mountain. Because I'm like, am I really going to have to bushwhack down to, now I'm going to get down at 11 o'clock at night. So he did. And then I followed up with him and he wouldn't give me, I asked him for any family members, make sure. He said, no, I'll be fine. I said, but no, give me your number. So I did call him and then he thanked me. So that was another one.
Nice. Wow, some
The
crazy
moral of the
instances.
story is, you got to know when you got a problem, and just there's no. But for men listening, there's no need to get man pride and this whole freaking thing. And I'm fine. Like the old. Remember, you ever see Rocky IV, which you should have.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With remember when Apollo was getting killed by the Russian, which always makes me mad. I'm so mad about it today. But Rocky's about to throw that towel. And then Apollo, I hate that part. Apollo like shakes his head no. And then Rocky like drops put the towel down. Apollo gets killed, which was so depressing when I saw that. I'm still torn up about it now. So you just got to know when you got to fight another day. And I think in all these cases, whether it's Kate, unfortunately in the Whites in 2015, if it's the girl this past year, Emily and the Whites, what's her name? I can't remember her name. McNaughton, and I want to say 2016 maybe she was. What's her name in McNaughton? Yeah, her. They don't want to give up. That's why in the intro I wanted you to say like I failed a bunch of stuff. Like I think it's funny. Like it's funny to me. Like I went out to do Marcy and like 3 times in 1 week. I only got it 1 time. I mean, I think it's great. But you got to know, like for me, Kucharaga, when you got to throw in the towel. Like this year, Marshall, which is notoriously difficult. I broke trail from the trailhead upper works all the way to the base of the mountain. I ran out of time. Knew there was going to be a storm in Jersey. I said, am I really going to break trail going up, route find, and have enough time? The answer is no. So I turned around, went home, came back a few days later on Friday. and then finish it up. Even if I came back and I had to redo the whole thing and break all the trail, I'd rather do that than just get myself into trouble.
Yeah. There's like times when when you gotta say like, I don't need to summit this mountain.
Right.
Like it'll still be there. Like let's give it another day or something like that. Like, some people, you're so close to the summit, and you might sprain your ankle, or might start getting cramps or stuff like that. Give yourself a little time and then figure out the situation of maybe not summiting. It might not be the smartest choice. Am I putting myself in danger, or am I putting other people in danger?
Exactly.
Those professionals that come up and have to rescue you. Yeah. They're professionals. They're ready for that. But what might happen to them on their way up? Is it worth it? So
with I cannot remember her name, the woman for McNaughton, like the ranger fell in and I believe got mild hypothermia. I believe he definitely fell in on that. One of them did.
I remember that one. I think I do remember that. He got rescued out before she did, right?
Yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
Hugh Davis. Yep. March 2016. Yeah, and on that, the Ranger. Let me see if let me see. There's a Ranger, I believe, who did fall in. So the whole point is like, oh, okay, yeah, I see it right here. So as forest rangers hiked out, one ranger fell through the ice of a brook and was submerged chest deep while carrying a 50-pound pack. Fellow rangers pulled their colleague from the icy water, changed his clothes, stabilized his core. So it's so rangers requested an emergency extraction to prevent frostbite and hypothermia from overtaking the forest ranger. So yeah, it's also what the people who are trying to help you are going to get themselves into as well. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. It's crazy, just like those guys, this recent rescue where they had to be saved from across the water,
There you
across the
go.
Lincoln Brook. They put themselves in danger to come over to that other side to get you there. So it's crazy stuff. So there's no shame in throwing in the towel and turning around. So as you
We
can
should
see,
talk about that real quick. So like like things can melt and these streams get so crazy sometimes they're not passable. So you can't use bags because they're raging so much that going in you most likely would be toppled over.
yep,
In some cases, that's I think Indian River. I think that's what it is.
yep,
The one when they had got rescued. There's one going up to Mount Marcy. That's another one that's tough. So there's one
Phelps
Calkins
Brook.
Brook. What's that?
Is it Phelps Brook? I think
Yeah, Fells Brook. Yep.
that's another one.
And then I fell through an ice bridge 2022 going up to Seward because Calkins Brook was flooded out and impassable. So I went up Seward to go to Donaldson and Emmons. Fortunately, I fell through that ice brook and I actually completed it. And that's a good thing. People would say, well, why didn't you just turn around? I mean, I was already 7 miles out in there. And I knew because I know my systems, I knew my pants and my base layer would dry fast. I had extra socks. I knew my socks were wool. The weather wasn't that cold. The water was really cold. I knew I would dry out and I was with somebody else and I wasn't in danger of going hypothermic. So that's how I made the decision to keep going,
Mhm.
falling at the bottom part of Seward Mountain through an ice bridge into the cold water, and I still kept going. And I did not change my clothes because I knew it. I knew my systems would dry out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, crazy stuff. See that, and that's talking about this time of year is like you said, there might be 2 feet still up on the Adirondacks that have melted, and they freeze overnight, and then during the day when you're going up to the lake, Mount Marcy, Colden, stuff like that, those rivers, those brooks will become swelled up like crazy, and they will be flowing. And just think about that. Crazy. So, David, what is your best slash favorite winter hike that you've ever done?
It's usually with people, not doing solos. I would probably say I had a great time in Basin and Saddleback this past year. I had a great time. I went with a girl, Ashley, for Seward Donaldson and Ema Emmons. Is cool for Santanonis because eventually I went with my friend Lois. Her and her husband helped me to break the trail and route find for Cucharaga. So we did all three that day. Yeah, so I would probably say like my probably would be I had a great time on Haystack Basin and Saddleback. And then I would probably say I really enjoyed Marcy, Skylight, and Gray. I broke out everything from Colden all the way the back of to Gray to Skylight and Marcy myself solo. It was a great day. It was sadly the day they started looking for that guy who died on the trap dike. But
Oh
it was a
yeah.
great day.
Wow. What about in the Catskills? Do you remember any of your favorite hikes in the
Oh
Catskills?
yeah, Cornell, Wittenberg. I mean, there's so many I love out there because it was like the people I was with. I liked Cornell, Wittenberg, Slide, that combo. That was a great hike in the winter. I mean, we had a funny experience with this guy Richard in North Dome and Cheryl. He was like completely crazy with like following a bearing no matter what. Like he didn't understand the concept of like going around things, like and then going back to the bearing. It was just like we gotta go this way because it's the bearing. I also I like Lone and Rocky. I'm trying to think here.
Those are walk in the parks for you.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like when you look at like back then when I would look at like the distance elevation and that, when you get up to the Adirondacks, especially in the winter, I mean, it's like some of the, with all your equipment, you have like, 40 plus pounds and then you have snowshoes, but like your minimum is like 4,000 feet and there's like many 5,000 feet.
Yep. So like in the winter, what is like an essential gear that you use? What is your go-to gear that you would suggest people every time you're out?
So I'll go through from like I have a system. So I use Keen winter boots from Keen. I really like
Yep.
their winter ice insulated boots, smart wool socks, a smart wool sock liner. For me, I tape my toes because I wind up getting blisters. So I tape all five of my toes.
Wow.
Then I have base smart wool base layer. And I've tested other base layers, that are comparable. They're fine. And then I have the KUHL pants, the convertible. So the convertible ones I use in regular season that you can like zip off the bottoms.
Yep.
So then after that, I wear suspenders, which was a good game changer. I don't like doing just the belt only thing because your pants sag. It's a huge pain. Then I have emergency food in one pocket. I have a notebook. I have some Jolly Ranchers, a meal replacement bar, and then I have let's see, I have stuff to wipe my nose. Then I have map in my back pocket, 3 sets of hand warmers, non-climbing rated carabiners on my belt because I wind up like hooking gloves to my myself. And then I have let me think here. Around my neck, I have my compass with a whistle around it. I have a heavy base layer, smart wool for my shirt. Then I wear and oddly enough, this is like the strangest thing. I can easily go to negative 10 degrees with a base layer shirt and my main jacket, my main shell,
Oh wow.
which is a Burton ski shell, which I absolutely love. And then within that, I usually have like homemade popcorn, which is essentially like high fat, high sugar. So like I can create that myself and add a lot of like ghee, butter, and not sugar, salt, and it's tasty. So I eat it on the go, and then I'll have usually nuts and some chocolate mixed with nuts. And this is all in my Burton jacket with 3 more sets of hand warmers, and then also thin liner or liner gloves. And then I have some like little fruity snacks as well because I really want access to food that I can eat on the go. And I don't want to like think to myself, oh, gee, I got to take my freaking pack off and all this drama. But then your brain's like, oh, don't eat. And then before you know it, you're like going to fall over. So like you got to have this is my system. I can meet people say, David, that's so wrong. My brother's best friend, Pappy's mother, she goes after, she has not, she didn't eat a single thing. She did, everything in a weekend. Like, okay, that's great. So this is for me, regular dude. So I have that. And then I have, let me think of some of the other innovations that I have. So around my neck, I have a balaclava, which I pulled down. Oh, I have a backup hat in my, so in the Burton jacket, you have chest pockets. So I have a backup hat in my chest pocket. So I got the balaclava. I talked about the compass, the whistle around the compass. Then I wear a regular fleece hat, and for gloves I use mittens, and I use for every negative 10 degrees I think it will be, I add 1 hand warmer. So if I think it'll be negative 10, 1 hand warmer, negative 20, 2 hand warmers, negative 30, 3 hand warmers. And in my Marmot, I think they're Expedition. Let me see here. It took me a while to find those. I love those.
It's definitely a challenge to find the stuff that will fit you and you like.
So let's see. Let me see here because those were really great. Those are called. I think they're. Oh, here they are. Right here. These are men's 8,000 meter mitts. So those I've tested a whole bunch. Those have been great for me.
Well,
I think so. I went through hands, head, and then and then for traction, I carry Hill Sounds, K10s, sometimes crampons, depending on like which day I'm going out with, and MSR Lightning Ascent snowshoes, which I'm not the biggest fan. I don't think the crampons are the best, but I like them because they don't hurt my toes. But I don't think the traction is the strongest. But when I have tubs, it hurts my toe more, so I'd rather have my toe hurt less, and then deal with the traction issues. And I just use Black Diamond poles. And occasionally I use a whippet, depending on, what I'm doing. And I'll bring the ice axe and or a rope. And I do carry a pretty big pack with lots of redundancy for food. I bring a puffy jacket, a fleece, another jacket, and then another jacket. And the Marmot 8,000 meter mittens we just talked about. I have a backup pair, another backup pair of gloves. So I basically bring 2 mittens and a liner glove and then other gloves. And then I have in there like first aid kit, map, like just a whole bunch of survival kind of stuff, tarp, lot of that kind of stuff. So people look, they're like, oh, you don't need all that stuff. But like, when you're solo, you freaking need all that stuff. Like, so that's like, sometimes you just gotta, I would say like when you're doing things like it's like, I have a goddaughter. I'm like, honey, you gotta, some of these kids, they have a half a brain. You gotta ignore them. They're gonna tell you like, stand on your head and you'll make $100 million with a video camera. Like they don't know. Like, so some people, they mean well, but they literally don't know. So like you might carry more things, and then you might get the, the shaming. We should call it, right? What do they call it? Like fat shaming, but not fat. Like pack shaming. I just coined that. Pack shaming. I coined that today. So like people are like, oh, why do you like? like they'll be like, "Oh, are you doing like are you backpacking? You doing like a month out here?" It's like, "Oh, ha ha ha." But like you want to come back and live. And then, another tip is like if you don't carry that pack, then you can't say like, "Oh, I want to do Marcy Skylight Gray or Basin Saddleback and Haystack." And now all of a sudden I got this big pack. I'm doing it by myself and I haven't trained with it. So like, I generally in the winter bring a lot
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah, survival though. It also
Right.
depends on the day, correct? Like
Right.
the weather.
Exactly. So I do though, like, to keep a system, because I learned this from my cousin, where he said, like, as a Marine, my cousin, a high ranking Marine, he's like, you gotta make sure that you know where everything is and you're not like, oh my God, I forgot that. So he's like, it's just better to have a system, everything's in the same spot, and you're just kind of bringing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like versus like, oh, today I'm taking this out. I mean, again, this isn't all in stone, so you could take some stuff out, but that's, there is some downside on that because sometimes people run into trouble when they don't have everything.
Exactly. Or somebody else is in trouble.
Right. Exactly. You want to help somebody out.
Exactly. I definitely learned that. I mean, I haven't learned that as your experiences if you had, like you've helped people off, but just being with search and rescue, I kind of carry double the stuff just in case something happens, especially in the winters. The winter's very critical.
Yeah, that is absolutely very critical.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna wind down. What do you think in the Adirondacks or the Catskills, whatever you want? What are some of the harder mountains to summit in the I mean, you said you did Marcy. It took you 3 times to do Marcy. So, and the other mountain, what has it been your darkest days or the ones you don't want to
Cucharaga, because it's
Kucharaga?
flat. Cucharaga is like, you get to this area, usually do Panther first, then you go to Cucharaga, and then it's basically you're in a situation where it can go down flat. So once you get in flat, and the hard pass go everywhere, or there's no hard pass. So that's a tough one. Trying to do Marcy Skylight and Gray on any one given day it can be tough. Haystack, Basin, and Saddlebug. Like Haystack, Basin together, Basin by itself, Haystack by itself are all tough. Saddleback by itself is easier. I mean, again, it's still, 3,200 ish and, probably 13 plus miles. So it's still not a breeze. The Santano, well, no, I just talked about Santanonis. So going to Santoni from Cucharaga is another tough thing. The Dix Range is another one. So like Macomb can be very scary for people because you're on a slide. It looks like you slide down to infinity. South Dix, East Dix, those can all be hard in the winter. Dix can be tough. There's a ton of snow going up the Dix. The Seward Range, that's another nightmare. We didn't even talk about the fact that they close roads. They close the road in the Seward Range sometimes. So that adds on, I think, another 7 miles. So like, yeah, your 15-mile day could turn into 22, still with like 5,000 elevation gain.
Yikes. Yeah, I don't look to doing these in the winter, so thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, so you have those. So there are like a bunch that that really can be challenging, and I just say like go out, do them, and then if things go on, just go back and repeat. Like, look, I've gone in the same week, back several times.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So also like what is your recorded longest day that you've been out in the mountains? Like one shot.
32 miles, I think. Let me see here. I want to say 32 miles. Let's see. Hold on a second. I created my how I create my own challenges. So I did what's it called? Let's see here. Let's see. I did the Point Mountain Traverse. It's like a quadruple traverse. And that was, let me see here. The Point Mountain, that was, let me see here. So that was 31.26 miles, 10,243 elevation,
Wow. Shit.
and 14 hours and 9 minutes.
Wow. Beast. That's insane. Where was that? Where's the point to point? Where's that located?
It's in New Jersey.
Crazy. Oh, like High Point?
No, it's actually down by Washington Township.
Nice. Crazy.
So,
You
um,
are insane.
yeah, Washington Township. So, the only thing I advise, also people making sure that they build up, because you want your ligaments and tendons and stabilize your muscles to get used to things, and you really want. I mean, I'm not being like a jerk, but like you do want to I don't want to say consult the doctor, but you just can't start and do a ton, especially if you're older. You have to build up. And if you have pains, I regularly go to the doctor. I get physicals. I go to physical therapy. Like I'm going tomorrow for my shoulder. So when I have problems, I actually check in with doctors, to make sure it doesn't get worse. I mean, I learned this from the days of football. This is in my soul of football. Like football players get medical care.
Yeah.
Like football players go to physical therapy. Like you don't just hope for the best. So I do encourage people to build up over time.
Yeah. Good call. Good suggestion. Awesome. So Dave, we're kind of winding down. When you're out in the Adirondacks, Catskills, stuff like that, hiking, do you have any specific places that you like to go to eat afterwards or what? Right?
Yeah. I love Johnny's Pizza in Lake Placid, but Johnny was gone during COVID. He shut down and turned it into something else. I remember I'd be in there at COVID. I can't have much pizza because I got a bad stomach. I'd be like, Johnny, cut this slice, cut it in three. It makes me feel like I'm having three slices, not one. And I remember Johnny was like, they're going to reveal everything with COVID. It's going to be so clear, this whole thing. So I was looking for Johnny this past year, and I'm like, where's Johnny? They're like, oh, he's in this other place, in the town of Lake Placid. I'm like, you tell him that David's looking for him because he's supposed to tell me the whole thing behind secret of COVID.
Nice.
And his place is great, Johnny's. There's another pizzeria down called Bossy, which is down the street. I like that. I love Sticks and Stones in Lake Scroon. That's another really great place in Lake Scroon. And then other than that, there's not, most people go to, what the heck is it? What can't I remember? What's the gas station? I can't remember that.
And more.
Stewart's. Most people go to
Stewart's.
I try to stay away from that because it destroys my stomach, but most people love that. But there aren't, it's not like in the Catskills, I love brioche. There's a bunch of great I love brioche.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of great places in Catskills. They don't really, it's weird. They don't, there's a bunch of fancy places for but they're not brioche-ish, as many. So, but I do like Sticks and Stones and Lake Scroon. And then Bossy is that other pizzeria up in Lake Placid. That's another great place. And I'm trying to think about that. And if you're down in the Sewards, down in that area, there's nothing. There's in Tupper Lake, there's some one bar pizzeria. And then if you're in the Upper Works area, there's literally nothing. It's kind of funny. There's nothing out there in Upper Works, but that's basically it. As on food, I actually bring my own food, and I also bring stuff I put in a cooler. What do you call a thermos?
Yeah,
like chicken. I put together chicken and oatmeal, steel cut oats, and I cook it in the morning. I put it in a thermos, and that's what I have. So most of mine is steel cut oats and chicken that I make.
Crazy.
What people think is very strange.
I think it's that's why I said that you're crazy. That's very strange, but whatever works for you, right?
Yeah. And on the food note, we didn't touch on that too much. It is critical to dial that in, to figure out what you like. And we learned this in our SAR training. So we learned that you've got to like the food. You remember that was part of the training? Like, and I realized if you don't like the food, you're already like, oh, I don't want to eat because I don't feel like eating. Cause like you just don't feel like eating, even if you're like falling apart. So like it has to taste good. That's why I like make my own food and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
popcorn and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then whatever's going to give you energy to get up that mountain. And like you said, simple snacks that are located easily accessible to get to is very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy stories, David. I thank you for joining me tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Yeah. Once again, thank you to people who have sponsored. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the monthly donors that support the show. You guys are the best. And thank you everyone who has listened. I really appreciate it. Keep me going. Episode number, this is I think 72, I think. I didn't touch up on that. So yeah, 72. So Dave, thanks for finally joining me on episode 72.
Sounds good. Hey, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah. All right. So Dave, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See you tomorrow, buddy.
All right. Bye, man.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking memes, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you just keep on living, man. LIVIN.
Wicked.